Hello and welcome to Today the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Okushakin. Let's move straight to the front pages of the dailies and starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with shock as Saudi Arabia cancels visa on arrival for 264 Nigerians. Passengers airborne back to Nigeria. We are investigating to see if any consular or aviation rule has been flouted. That's according to Foreign Ministry. We are waiting for updates. That's coming from the presidency. Cancellation shocking. Stakeholders are saying that, and it's aeropolitics that's coming from aviation security consultant. You can see that story on page 5. On page 14, Bayelsa Imo Kogi Governor polls triumphant Diri Ododo Zodima unveil agenda. You can see that on page 14. On page 8, Tinubu orders withdrawal of policemen from VIPs. Export employment. Federal government moves to secure jobs for Nigerians. On sport, Peseiro arrives at Uyo ahead Nigeria versus Lesotho game. You can see that on page 29. Why colleagues of education can't remit 40% to federal government treasury. That's coming from Kohesu. And on page 8, insecurity. You've done well. Ribado tells CDS and service chiefs. And up the banner, NLC, TUC begin a nationwide strike today over brutalization of Ajaero and others. Plateau. Protesters storm Supreme Court over sack of 4 PDP members from National Assembly. Tinubu to NJC. Appoint qualified lawyers to Supreme Court and Appeal Court bench. Lastly, on Vanguard newspaper on page 19, security dealers blame speculators for Naira's woes. You can see that on page 19 of Vanguard newspaper. Away from that, we move to the Punch. Punch is leading with a strike. Federal government threatens labor with contempt charge. NLC adamant. Nationwide strike indefinite. NLC boasts. Federal government film says labor disobeys court order. NLC TUC writes ASO. Electricity unions demand compliance, justice. You can see that story on page 2. Governorship polls, Tinubu louds INEC, PDP faults Kogi and Imo results. You can see that on page 47. Lagos drivers protest LASTMA extortion, commuters stranded. You can see that on pages 4 and 5. Kwara Governor Oyedepo mourns as a CNS leader dies at 101 years old. You can see that on page 8. Away from there, we move to the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian this morning is leading with International Day. Doctors' patients bemoan diabetes epidemic, 200% spike on treatment. That can be seen on page 6. And on page 4, NLC TUC ignore court order, begin nationwide strike over assault on Ajaero. Human trafficking, Benue ranked highest as 1.6 million Nigerians get trapped in modern slavery. You can see that on page 4. Knox praise for INEC as Ziri coast to victory in Bayelsa. Pandemonium as driver fleeing from LASTMA officials kills 2 sweepers. You can see that on page 19 of the Guardian newspaper. Now the nation this morning is leaving with a strike not in nation's interest. Presidency cautions labor. LLC TUC declare industrial action over assault on Ajaero. AGF respect court order. And here there's a statement from NLC says this is going to be indefinite until government at all levels wake up to their responsibilities. And from presidency, why would NLC and TUC decide to punish a whole country over a personal matter? You can see that on page 5. Below, we have George's pay to go up. FCT to build quarters for judicial officers. You can see that on page 5. Nigeria tops in Africa with 1.35 mbpd oil production. That can be seen on page 8. Diri defeats Silva to secure re-election. APC 7 others reject results. Uzodima Ododo unveil plans. Tinubu Buhari governors hail polls. You can see that on page 8 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Okushakin. Joining me to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher of Ilukpeju Today, Lekki Today, and Ikeja GRE Today. Good morning, Mr. Dyer.
Good morning, Damilola. Good morning to all our viewers.
Yes, and thank you for joining us. Now, let's go straight to the front pages of the dailies, and we're starting with the aviation and diplomatic circles in Nigeria. They were referred yesterday as the Saudi Arabian government cancelled the visa of all the 264 passengers lifted by Nigeria's major carrier Air Peace on arrivals at the country from Kano, insisting that they be returned to Nigeria. What do you think about this?
It was quite shocking, actually. And what's funny is that there was no explanation. Even the Saudi authorities, immigration authorities, couldn't give any valid basis for the cancellation. They just simply said the orders came from above. They were asked to cancel the visas. And what is all the more makes the story all the more unacceptable or funny looking is that our president is in Saudi Arabia at the moment, and he's doing the Lesser Hajj. And it's surprising that he's just got out of a summit with Saudi leaders, and something like this would happen to citizens of his country. What makes it even more terrible is the fact that they were pre-approved. There's this thing called visa on arrival that they're supposed to get, but before you board at all, before you're allowed to board, you are pre-qualified. So Air Peace had already screened these people and made sure that their application for visa on arrival was already in the system and they had been pre-approved. That's the way to go. So Air Peace did what he was supposed to do, followed protocol properly, followed due process. And even the passengers all followed due process as well. Well, word is that while they were in the air, after they departed Nigerian airspace, while they were in the air, their visas were summarily cancelled. We don't really know what happened, but speculation is that it is aviation politics, that basically Air Peace recently was approved for the route, and a lot more people, a lot more Nigerians have been using Air Peace than using Saudi Air. And of course, because Air Peace is charging in Naira, if you use Saudi Air, there's issues of foreign exchange. They have to repatriate their dollars. So Saudi Air costs more than Air Peace. So Air Peace has been airlifting a lot more people. So there's speculation. I don't know how true it is. There's speculation that the Saudi officials are not pleased with that, and that this is a retaliatory move to more or less stymie Air Peace's growing business in the region. I don't know why, if you would want to punish an airline or to stifle competition, why innocent people will now be victimized in this way, because those people were returned to Nigeria. Although we're hearing that 70 were allowed to enter and 170 were returned. So it's definitely a diplomatic mess. And I think our Ministry of Foreign Affairs should step up to the plate and demand an explanation, because there's something called bilateral air services agreement that countries sign between each other. And we have that agreement between Saudi Arabia and Nigeria. So really, there is no justifiable reason for what they did. And it's good for us to find out, because we shouldn't just be able to be treated anyhow, by any country and just let it go. So I think our government should demand an explanation, and if it's appropriate, ask for an apology as well.
Okay, let's move away from that. Talk about NLC and the trade union, the counterpart. They've directed workers nationwide to begin an indefinite strike from midnight today. And what is the reason why they're having an issue now with the federal government is that they're saying it's a personal matter and it's not in the interest of the country. But what do you think about the union's decision?
Well, I've lost faith in labor movements' integrity in terms of calling strike, not calling strike. They seem to rattle their saber a lot, but their back is worse than their bite. For in the last 1 year, I think they've called strike about 4 or 5 times. And when it's about to happen, then you hear them saying, "Oh, we've talked to the government, we've resolved issues." Like I was reading this morning that the Minister of Labour, Simon Lalong, has already summoned the leadership of TUC and LLC to his office today for discussion. So it won't surprise me if sometime later today a press conference is called and they say, "Oh, we've resolved our issues with the government." Well, if your issues with the government are so easy to resolve that you always call off a strike at the last minute, why don't you resolve the issues before even calling a strike at all? It seems like the instrumentality of the strike, which has been deployed effectively in the past to bring workers' demands before government in a serious fashion, that makes government bend to the will or be willing to compromise, because a strike basically grinds the entire economy to a halt. And a strike is a tool, a veritable tool that democratic institutions or democratic countries deploy as a constitutional right, a protest and a strike. But because the government has started to now involve the courts and getting the industrial court to always uh, restrain labor from striking, that has taken away a very formidable weapon that labor used to compel government to come to the bargaining table. Now, in this case, yes, an injunction has been issued by the industrial court again, saying they should not strike. The labor leaders have ignored it. At the risk of being held in contempt of court and being thrown into jail, they've ignored it and gone ahead and called this strike. However, we've not started to see too many of the affiliate unions joining the strike. The major unions, things like Pengasan, NURTW, oil transport truck drivers unions, the major unions around the economy have so far not yet spoken up. Unions like ASU and such type unions have joined, but the ones that could really bring the economy to a halt, the ones that relate to things like petrol, electricity, banking, those kind of ones, they have not joined yet. We don't know what will happen as the day progresses, but Nigerians have woken up today and they've ignored this thing. They've looked at it with a yawn, like, you people are not serious. We're tired of hearing you say we are calling a general strike and then nothing ends up happening. You go to Abuja, who knows what happens inside the minister's office, but you all come out hugging, shaking hands and slapping your backs and smiling. Maybe you've collected brown envelope, we don't know. But a lot of Nigerians have lost faith in the ability of the labor leadership, the labor movement, to actually fight for the rights of the workers. In this particular case, they are saying it's a personal matter. That Joe Ajero, the chairman of the NLC, went to Imo State on a political mission, not on a labor union movement issue. That he went there either to campaign for his preferred candidate, which was not the incumbent governor running for re-election, or he went there to mount a protest of some sort against the government, but it was not a labor union related issue. And so what happened to him, they're saying, as an individual, the pains he suffered should not be visited upon the masses of Nigeria, because a private individual in a private capacity had an altercation with government agencies or government personnel. That doesn't mean the rest of the country should be allowed to suffer. So it's a murky situation at best. Labor is not looking too good. Governments, they have their demands. And government is saying, we've met some of your demands. We've redeployed the commissioner of police who was in charge of the security of the state when the incident happened. But they are saying they want the area commander who directed the forces that day. They want him also removed or redeployed. They have some other demands. Who knows how this thing is going to play out? We'll see.
But what do you think about using the state police for political thuggery?
That shouldn't happen. There should be a separation between governance and politics. There should be a clear demarcation. When you use the instrumentalities of states that are available for governance, when you use them for political purposes, especially for thuggery or ballot snatching or any of all the other electoral malfeasances, it basically undermines the integrity of the administration. And it shouldn't be allowed to happen. You shouldn't use the coercive apparatus of government to unleash terror or unleash mayhem or violence on law-abiding people. State police or police are there for enforcement of law and order. And if people are law-abiding, they should be free to go about their business in a normal fashion and should not have to fear for their lives or their property from activities of the security forces. So, yeah, that is wrong and it shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Okay, and still talking about the police, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave the directive for the withdrawal of police personnel from VIP security duties. What do you think about this? I mean, people have been clamoring for this for a long time, especially when you see policemen opening cars for VIPs.
President Obasanjo did more than that. He actually completely banned and withdrew policemen from duty of guarding private citizens. It didn't work. It is a part and parcel of our culture, and as long as people have the money, they will be able to pay for police protection, police attention, police oversight, and I don't see how it can be curbed. Yes, the Inspector General has taken up the president's order and has issued a directive, but I don't see it happening. I don't see it being effective. I believe it's too entrenched in our culture. Our elites have an ego issue. Because if you really think about it, if you're trying to protect yourself and be secure, by actually going around with mobile police, you're calling attention to yourself. So you are defeating the purpose as far as I can see. If you really wanted to protect yourself, you go around incognito, where you are not known, you are not seen, you are not recognized, you go about quietly. But by the time you are surrounded by mopo, you have a pickup truck with mopo in front of your vehicle, you have two police with rifles in your car and they're opening doors for you, they're closing doors, then it's obvious that you're a politically exposed person or you're a wealthy person. So um, I don't see the political will being there, and it will be a pleasant surprise if they can actually achieve it. Because even just yesterday, I saw private citizen going with four mobile police in a pickup in front, his car in the middle, and other mobile police in the back. I mean, it's a way of life here. It's an ego thing. It's a superiority complex kind of thing, and I think that you know how Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala said, when you fight corruption, corruption fights
Corruption
back.
fight back.
So it's the same thing here. You try and do this, the powers that be will fight against it because they believe that they have come to see it as a rite of passage. They've come to see it as a necessary accoutrement to elitism in Nigeria. So I don't think it'll evaporate easily like that simply because of a presidential directive. Obasanjo tried it and didn't succeed.
Let's talk about the LASTMA. Our commuters yesterday, they were left stranded across various bus stops in Lagos State following a protest by commercial bus drivers over alleged arrests and extortion by officials of the Lagos State Transport Management Authority. Now, while that protest was going on, a car rammed into Lagos State Waste Management Authority sweepers while they were discharging their duties along Bagada Expressway. In one part, they were protesting against them. One part, they allegedly caused an accident. What do you think about this?
Well, it shows LASTMA has overreached itself. It shows that LASTMA um, has become a rogue agency whereby um, their duties come secondary to revenue generation for their personal pockets. I think that when they go to work in the morning, their primary focus is how much am I going to make today as opposed to how am I going to help Lagos traffic move. I'm not saying they don't work. They do a lot of good in terms of traffic management, but that is secondary. That comes secondary to their desire to make money from their efforts. And that's why commercial drivers were protesting yesterday, because they're fed up of the extortion. I'm not exonerating commercial drivers from bad driving, from recklessness, from abuse of road laws. They are reprobates when it comes to road etiquette. Commercial drivers are the absolute worst, and they do deserve to be reined in and to be called to order. But they're not being called to order by LASTMA simply for good road use and lawful driving and obeying the road rules. They are being called to task by LASTMA so that LASTMA can extort money from them. And this is what they stood up to protest for yesterday. And ironically, as that protest was going on, another group of LASTMA people allegedly, because the Lagos State advisor to the governor on transportation has come out and debunked the speculation, but eyewitnesses have confirmed it. And what it says is that LASTMA was trying to apprehend a vehicle. We told it was a Toyota Sienna, which is a people carrier. Many of them use it for interstate transportation, but we don't know yet if it was commercial or if it was private, because some people use it for private use as well. But that vehicle obviously contravened some road law, and LASTMA was trying to apprehend it, and the driver decided to try to evade arrest. And in the process of evading arrest, LASTMA pursued that vehicle. And in the process of pursuing it and the vehicle trying to evade arrest, this tragic accident occurred where two road sweepers were crushed to death by the fleeing vehicle. We have two different accounts. We have one account that says it was the fleeing vehicle that rammed into the street sweepers, and another vehicle which we saw impaled in the gutter. The second story says it was the LASTMA vehicle that was pursuing the evading vehicle. It was the LASTMA vehicle that ran into the street sweepers. But the bottom line is two innocent souls are dead. Two innocent souls who reported for duty in a very hazardous job, went to go and do their sacred duty and serve the people of Lagos in a very dangerous job, which they go out every day. I see them there on the expressway. Very risky job. They're sweeping, they're keeping Lagos clean for the benefit of all of us. They deserve the utmost protection. Now Lagos State will say, well, we have some hazardous occupation insurance. We will give their family XYZ amount of money. Does that bring the life back? How much are you going to give them that will make up for the loss of the life? So I would like to find out. I would like government has said it's investigating it will issue a public report. But they said the same thing a few months ago about another incident. We haven't seen any public report. But I would hope that in this particular case, because there was a lot of outrage when it happened. They blocked the expressway. They said they would not allow the crowd said they would not allow the corpses to be moved until Governor Sanwo-Olu himself came to address the crowd and promised that justice would be done. The LASTMA, because as soon as this incident happened, the LASTMA fled. The evading vehicle fled. Two dead bodies were left there with no accountability. All the people responsible ran away. So this infuriated a mob who stood there watching these two dead people, innocent people, dead. And in gruesome circumstances, the head of one was completely smashed to pieces. There was blood all over the place. It was really tragic and gruesome. So, of course, the mob was emotional. They were angry. They wanted answers, and they wanted to be sure that justice would be done, that whoever the LASTMA officials were. And also the thing about it is, why would LASTMA be pursuing any vehicle simply because you tried to apprehend it and you tried to evade arrest? Lagos State has got traffic cameras now to where they are snapping number plates of vehicles, and they wait for you when you come to register your vehicle, and they say, oh, 2 months ago, your vehicle was contravened. Here is the photo of your license plate, date, time, location. You broke so law. So we can't renew your registration until you pay your fine. Why can't they take those pictures and wait for the vehicle owners whenever they come to register their vehicle? Why goes back to what I said in the beginning. If they take the picture and wait for the vehicle when it comes to get registered, that money goes to government coffers, not to the pocket of LASTMA. But if they arrest you right there on the road, while you break the law, they arrest you on the road, any money you use to settle them, most of it goes to their pocket. So that's the purpose. They're not interested in interdicting vehicles as a punishment for errant drivers, a fine that goes to the government pocket. They're just interested in what comes to them. They don't care about whether you learned a lesson about it or not. Just pay us and you can go. And that's what led to yesterday's tragedy, from my understanding. It's unconscionable. So LASTMA, perhaps all the way from the top, needs to be restructured completely, maybe from the leadership. It's really bad.
Yes, may their soul rest in peace.
Amen.
Now, let's end this on a lighter note with Mr. and Mrs. And this morning, I think they're arguing about food. Mr. says, will you bring this food, woman? I am famished. Mrs. says, be patient and warm me the food. Mr. replied, for 30 minutes. Even global warming does not take this long.
Mr. should be patient. 30 minutes is not a long time. Global warming takes centuries. But food warming is just a few minutes. Mr. should be patient.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dyer, for joining us this morning.
Pleasure is all mine.
And this is where we have to draw the curtain. My name is Damlola Okunshakin. Do well to like and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen.